Welcome to the Heavenly Treasury broadcast where we help believers achieve God's financial abundance for your life. I'm your host, Ron Turba, author of the upcoming Heavenly Treasury series on biblical finance. And today we're going to come to you with a great topic that I know is going to be very, very blessed for you and your life, whatever you're going through right now. Because one of the reasons why we do this here is so that you can receive all that the Lord has for you in your life, especially when it comes to your finances. Because most people that I find are struggling in some way, shape, or form. It's not necessarily that you don't make enough money, although there's a lot of people out there that feel like they don't. However, a lot of people who do make a lot of money do feel like there's something really missing from their life. Or even if they do make a lot, they think, oh, I just got to get out of this somehow. I'm in this hamster wheel. I just keep going and going and going and going. And you know what? On the outside, that seems really, really strange. Because if you think about if you don't make a lot of money, at least if you think you should be making more, or for whatever reason you desire significantly more, and you see somebody who has what you desire, again, it doesn't have to be a super large amount, but let's just say for the moment you're in college right now and you make a part-time income of $15,000, $20,000, and you see somebody making 80, you think that they won the lottery or something like that, because that's a fourfold increase from what you're currently making. Or if you're currently making 80 right now, maybe you see somebody who's making 800,000, and you think, oh my goodness, how can that guy's got to have a great, phenomenal life? Look at all the money he's making. Well, guess what? That's not entirely accurate. Because I will tell you this, most people, especially in that particular income bracket, around the 800,000 to $1 million a year range, they have a lot of expenses. It's not just for their own personal pleasures. Yes, those people do likely live in nicer houses than you do. If you make less than that, they will drive a nicer car and go on nicer vacations and wear nicer clothes. Not putting that aside, but at the same time, a lot of that comes with a lot of other obligations that typically they're involved in. Because if you make that kind of an income, very rarely are you going to say, you know what, I make $1 million a year, but I'm only going to spend $50,000 a year. And I'm just going to give away the rest, or I'm going to invest the rest, or just not even utilize it for my own personal needs or desires today. Very few will ever think that way. And so what you'll find is that those people who do make all that money, again, putting taxes aside, whatever's left over after that, they're gonna think about this and think, wait, I'm spending a decent amount of money and I'm living a nice life, but there's something significantly missing, or there's something that I just really don't like about my life that I would love to change. And I know that's you. If you're in that income bracket, I know that that's you. I've met so many of you who just make so much money and like that and that amount, and you go out and you're in public, and you go out and you're at a restaurant, and you can't even enjoy a meal because all of your clientele are calling you, and you feel, if I don't take this call, my life is just going to go so terribly, so wrong, and in such a bad direction that I can't even take a time for dinner by myself to enjoy a meal. Even if it's a meal at McDonald's, you still can't enjoy it. Or even if you're on a vacation and you're on a boat with your friends on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, you got a nice 50, 60-foot yacht that you've got, and your friends are just rocking and rolling and you're having fun. But guess what? Clientels are calling, or some sort of obligation that you don't even realize that you have is now coming to the forefront, and you can't even take your mind off of those obligations or those tasks that you have and enjoy yourself in the moment. Just because you see somebody and they make a significant amount of money doesn't mean they have a significant happiness or even joy to them. Because there's a lot of things, especially when you start working for the Lord and doing His work. When I say working for the Lord, I'm not talking about quitting everything and going into full-time ministry. Don't ever think about that. And that's one of the big reasons why I chose to do this broadcast. Because there are a lot of people out there who feel like they are completely useless to the body of Christ because they love God with all their heart, but they feel completely useless because they're not in full-time ministry. And they think when they get to heaven, there's like this special heaven when you get to heaven for just the ministers. and everybody else has to live like dogs compared to them in heaven. That's not the case. That's not the case whatsoever. Yes, when we get to doing what we're supposed to be doing with the Lord, it's going to result in the expansion of his kingdom. Not just for the people who are lost that are coming in, but also for a fruitful, abundant life for everybody else in there. And that's the reason why I'm doing this broadcast, because I want people to know that there is a better life for you when you really get into the scriptures and study them for your own businesses, for your own endeavors. Again, not putting ministry aside. I'm not putting that down. I promise you that, because you're the ones who have a very different calling and a very different life that you have to live when you're in full-time ministry. Okay, but for everybody else, which is most of you, there's very few outlets for content that will give you that will show you how to live that abundant, fruitful life that you're supposed to live, but without saying, well, and only the way you can do that is by going into full-time ministry. There's very few outlets that I have found. Yes, there's a lot of people out there that are business leaders, that do business conferences, that do business teachings, that do business broadcasts. And again, we talk about that here too. Believe me, we do. But for those who are really God-focused, there's very few, if any. I have not found any. And that's why I believe the Lord asked me to do this broadcast right here on a very regular basis that I have. 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, as I'm going to come on live. And very, very soon I'll be on more than just Twitch, so you can see me on the other platforms. But for now, it's just Twitch. And one of the reasons why I chose to do that, beyond what I felt like called to do, even though the audience is very different on here than it is on other platforms, the outlet is very different than it is on other platforms. When you go on Twitch and you look at there, you're not looking for your typical TikTok 30-second to a minute clip, like boom, 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 boom. These are channels on this platform right here that you're going to watch for minutes, if not hours, and just let it roll in the background for whatever reason. If you like somebody's political commentary, you got plenty of stuff on here. If you like somebody who plays games all the time, that's one of the reasons why this platform is designed the way it is. So for whatever reasons, a lot of people play video games and broadcast themselves playing the video games. And to be honest with you, that's how I got started here. I found somebody who was playing a video game that I played from my childhood. I don't really play video games anymore, but I did growing up a lot. And somebody on here was playing one of my favorite games. I thought, wait a minute, I haven't seen that in years. And it started me getting onto this platform, right? I'm sure a lot of you, if you've been on here on Twitch in any way, shape, or form, you've likely experienced something of a similar fashion. Yes, there are a lot of people who will broadcast for hours at a time. Maybe one day I'll do that, but not now, okay? But there are a lot of people who are broadcasting for hours upon end on here. Literally from 8 a.m. all the way up through noon. That's what they do. They get paid to do it. They got people who watch them all the time. They have subscribers. They get donations. They have advertisers. And it really is an income stream for a lot of these people, especially if you're getting 5,000 to 10,000 people watching every single one of your broadcasts all the time. That gets noticed for a lot of advertisers, because in this day and age, again, I don't know why I'm going off on this tangent, but in this day and age, when it comes to advertising, it's not just a one-stop shop that it was 30 years ago. For example, if it was 30 years ago, every single person in America will be watching a certain number of channels, maybe a dozen channels. So if you were an advertiser and you wanted to get the maximum impact, you would just go to one of those outlets. Yes, it would cost you a lot, but that's where you would go. So you would go to ABC News, because you know that a lot of people would get their news from ABC and they would watch it. And when they got home and it's dinner time and they're eating those TV dinners, so to speak, what are they doing? They're watching ABC for something on there, Wheel of Fortune, whatever it is. So they know that a lot of Americans that they want to reach with advertisement are watching Wheel of Fortune. So what do? They just go there and they get their advertisements. Or they know that there's some magazine that everybody reads. That's where they go for their advertisements. Today, it is very, very different. And you have to be so great at your marketing today to be able to do exactly what you want to do and promote it exactly the way you want it promoted. This is not the one-stop shop that it was even a decade ago, where if you wanted to reach a politically conservative audience, you could just go to Fox News and literally every single conservative who's conservative in their politics would be watching Fox News, and you would just go and beam their advertisers with whatever you wanted. And so you know exactly the audience you would get, and you would get a lot of them. Today, that audience is kind of festered off into other different places. Yes, there's a lot of people who do watch Fox News, and they've done it for a long time. Again, not picking on them politically, but I'm just telling you from an advertisement and marketing perspective, a lot of these people, especially the under 50 and 55 age range, they have what people deem as echo chambers. Echo chambers. Now, what do they mean by that? Is because there are these small pockets sort of on the, I'm not going to say around the internet, but even on Facebook groups, on talk radio, on broadcasting, all that stuff. They have their own little niche where they have their own little group that thinks exactly like them. And it's not the millions that you see. It's the thousands. So that's where marketing really has to take a play in what you're doing this. Okay? Again, getting off on a tangent right there. I hope that really helped somebody who's in business, has a product, and they're thinking, how do I get this out? There's a lot of different areas for you to get your product and service out. You have to know exactly the type of people that are going to want to buy what you have. Then once you do that, you'll be able to find small little pockets from where these people congregate and where they search at for whatever they have or whatever they desire. So if you sell tractors per se, okay, now in the old days you would go to a magazine that a lot of farmers would use, and you would put your advertisement in there for your tractor or something along those lines. Today, that's not really the case because very few people are going to get a magazine in the mail and read it. They're going to have, their phone right here, okay? They're going to have their phone and they're going to go to their place where they like to read. And so what you're going to have to do is now look at, okay, this is a lot more difficult than it normally has been, but at the same time, it can be a lot more fruitful because most people just throw up their hands and will just throw it at anything that sticks. You, with a little bit of thought and some downloads from the Lord, will be able to say, okay, this is where I'm supposed to go. This is where I'm supposed to go. So that's one of the big reasons why we talk about this on the broadcast, is to be able to say, okay, we need to market our products and services to somebody. Even if you're a streamer right now and you're watching this and you're a streamer and you think, okay, I'm streaming this sort of content. Where can I go to find viewers and put that out there to be able to do that? And a lot of that has to do with social media. Yes, again, I'm not going to be talking about social media per se on this channel. Hey, what's going on? Yes, I am real. I am a real person right there. I promise you, I am not an AI. Hope you're having a phenomenal day today. Okay, blessed you found me. So yeah, that's really want to focus on from a marketing and sales perspective. Again, you can use. Again, you're a streamer. Let's say for the moment you stream some action-oriented video game. Well, guess what? If you're on Twitter, what are people who play action-oriented video games or like those going to go? They're gonna follow Activision. They're a big creator in video game content. It's going to be a lot of other things as well. Okay, and you can follow even big streamers who have that. Okay. So just think about that for a second when you're doing all of this and just thinking, okay, how can I grow my stream today? That's what we really want to focus on, okay? So you're going to find these small little pockets. Again, I don't know why I'm going off on this tangent today, but I'm going on and trying to focus on that so you can help grow into the good ideas that you're supposed to do, especially if you have been called by the Heavenly Father to say, okay, I want you to do a stream. I want you to broadcast just like me, okay? So that's what we're going for. So again, a lot of that is you're going to find here on the broadcast is to be able to get those ideas to help you in your walk, whatever that is. And I'm telling you, there are so many people who want to do really, really well for the Lord. There's so many people who want to do really, really well for their own life, to live an abundance that they can't even possibly dream of right now. Okay. And a lot of that you're going to get here. Not just the faith in your spirit, but also the skill set. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. So that you can get just that one golden nugget in just 5 or 10 seconds to be able to move and go where you're supposed to go. But today we're going to talk about, if you look at the topic, I promise it's not clickbait. It's love versus pleasure, how to unlock the blessing. And the reason I'm talking about that is this. If you are a believer right now and you're watching this for whatever reason, and you know, I'm really glad you are. So there's a difference between God's love for you and God's pleasure for you. And why is that important for finances? Because no matter who you are, even if you are the biggest heathen on planet Earth, the Lord sent his son to die for you. And you have a ticket punched to heaven right now if you accept him as your Lord and Savior. And once you do that, no matter what you do, okay, God is going to love you in a way that you can't even possibly imagine. Because I tell this to people all the time. I have many sons, many biological sons, okay? I would not send any one of them to the cross so you can be forgiven for a drug habit. You can be forgiven for murdering somebody. I would never in a million years, even though I have multiple sons, I would never do that. But God did that for you. That's how much he loves you. If you are the only person that was saved as a result of Jesus dying on the cross, it was worth it for him. It was worth it for him, okay? But at the same time, I want you to think about your parents for a second. When your parents told you that they loved you, even when you did something wrong, were they really lying to you? Not necessarily, okay? Because they came out, you came out of them, especially your mom, okay? Half of you came from your mom, half of you came from your dad. So they really see themselves in you as and again, that's why they say, no matter what you do, I'm going to love you. And they mean that. I know it's very difficult to believe. It really is. Especially if you grew up in a broken home, which unfortunately is the majority of people. The majority of people today, especially the younger generations, are growing up in a home that is broken. Even if the parents are still together, they're always arguing, they're always fighting, and all that. So it's very difficult for you to look at that and say, you know what? They say that they love me, but do I really believe it? Okay, so why am I getting at this? Let's say for the moment we flip the script and say, you know what? Instead of them showing their love for me, I'm going to show my love for them by doing what they want me to do. So if they ask me to do my whatever work around the house, I'm going to do it with excellence. I'm going to do it with diligence. I'm going to do it with a smile. And I'm going to say, you know what? I love you, Lord. I love you, Mom and Dad. And because I do that, I'm going to do what you say. I'm going to do it with a great attitude. And I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that you are proud of your son. Now, what is that going to do? No, okay? If you go out of your way to please your parents, what is that going to do? Even if your parents are broke as a joke, what is that going to do? That is going to move them in such a way to be able to bless you. If you do what they say, it's going to put a smile on their face and say, wow, I'm really proud to have my kids. And I'm really proud that they're here with me. So I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that they live a great, great life. And I'm going to bless them as much as possible. What does that mean? Now you're going to get the ice cream whenever you want. Okay? You're not going to get the frozen garbage that's $2 from the grocery store. You're going to go out for fresh ice cream. That's what happens when you please your parents. And you know, if you please them in a way that you got good grades. How many of you watching this had good grades growing up and got blessed by your parents because you got good grades? Guess what? Why? Because you did what they asked you to do. Now, you may not realize why good grades are important when you're 12 years old. You really don't care. You just know mommy and daddy want me to make good grades. So when I make good grades, I get blessed. For me, my dad, my dad gave me a dollar amount every time I got an A and every time I got a B. Below that, I got nothing. But there was an incentive for me to do that. Why? Because my dad went through a lot of schooling and he understood what it did for him financially speaking, going forward in the life that he had. So that's going to be very similar. Again, whatever parents you have, even if, again, they are broke as a joke and they have nothing, they're going to take whatever little they have left and bless you if they see that you are a phenomenal individual and a wonderful son or daughter to them. They're going to do that. So you may not believe that, especially with the lifestyle that they're living. If you grew up in a drug-infested home and all of a sudden all your parents are rolling up joints and that's all they do with their extra money. But guess what? If they see that you're a productive individual, even if their lifestyle is terrible, they're still going to go out of their way to bless you in some way, shape, or form. And I'm not talking about giving you a joint. I'm talking about doing something really, really great, like taking you out to the park or taking you to the amusement park. Every kid loves the amusement park, but for most parents, it can be a high dollar amount, not just for you and the family, but also to take the time away from what you would normally be doing on a Saturday or a Sunday or even a week's vacation. Okay, so why am I talking about this? Because that is the exact same with God. Why am I discussing this? Because literally every single thing that the Lord asks you to do is there's a blessing for the obedience. Even with giving, and we're not talking about that today, but there is a significant blessing with obedience, with whatever he asks you to do. Why do I say that? Because there is a difference between love from God and pleasure from God, and how that helps provoke your financial abundance that you're supposed to be living in. Okay? So that's why I discussed this today. Okay? So again, no matter what we do or don't do for God, once we accept him as his son, as our Lord and Savior, he's going to love us. There's nothing we can do better or worse that's going to change his love for us. But there are things we can do that will provoke the pleasure from the Lord, and that pleasure involves a blessing, and that blessing involves finances. It does. So that's why this is so important for you, because you have to be able to understand that when you do what the Lord asks you to do, he is well pleased with you when you do, and there is a financial blessing that comes with that. What do I mean? Here we go. I'm going to show you one scripture today, right here. It's 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 14 and 15. Okay? Here it is. Now this is God talking to King David. In verse 14 it says, I am to be his father, and he is my son. If he does perversely, I shall reprove him with the rod of men and with the blows of the sons of men. What does that mean? That's the pleasure part. That's the pleasure part, meaning if he doesn't do what I ask him to do, I'm going to take the rod and I'm going to beat him. Now, God is a spirit. He's not going to take a physical rod and go down to you wherever you are and just go boom, boom, boom. But you are going to feel as if I just got beaten by the Lord. You're going to feel that if you don't do what he says and don't do what he wants, especially when you've committed to follow him. So that is the pleasure part. The love part comes in verse 15, right below it. It says, but my kindness does not turn aside from him, as I turned it aside from you, Saul, whom I removed from before you. What does that say? But my kindness does not turn aside from him. That means no matter what he does, he's going to show his loving commitment to you, no matter what you do. So he's going to love you no matter what. Now, that there's certain levels beyond which God is pleased with you, because if even after you get saved, you just don't care about anything what he says, you don't want to do anything what he says, you just want to go back to your old life and do everything the same way you did. That is not going to please God, and that is not going to provoke a financial blessing. Because I will tell you this, every single financial blessing with the Lord comes provoked. It does. It comes provoked. Okay? So that means you have to do something to provoke the financial overflow. You have to do something. And it's not just giving. It's so much more than that. And I talk about that a little bit here. But for the most part, I don't. Because that's what you get from everybody else. That's what you get from everybody else. In order for you to rise higher, you have to give, and the only thing you have to do is give. Believe me, giving is important. I give a lot. I'm not going to tell you not to do that, but I'm also going to tell you that there is significantly more that you have to do in order for you to receive the blessing beyond just the giving. That's got to be more than that. And that's what we talk about here. Because by the end of these broadcasts, every single day, you're going to understand how to improve what you're doing today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, today. Okay? So that's what we're talking about here. And part of that, again, has to do with provoking the blessing of the Lord. And why am I talking about this? Because there are different levels at which God will show his favor to you if you're going to do what he says. What does that mean? For first off, I talk about your assignment. I talk about whatever the Lord has called you to do almost every single time I come on here. Because the significant financial blessings. Remember, God lives on streets paved with gold. In his house are many mansions. So where God resides right now, there are streets paved with gold and mansions. So before you think God is some poor schmuck that I'm just trying to hopefully one day get a few pennies out of, guess what? You are sorely mistaken. That's all I'm going to say. You are sorely, sorely mistaken. So that's one of the reasons why we discuss on here that God is a big God. And the past two broadcasts that I did, I started out by asking you very, very clearly, guess what? Is $1 million a lot of money? I started by provoking that sort of response. Okay? So that's what I'm talking about here. All right? So we're going to have to elevate ourselves to be able to do exactly what he wants. So the first thing that God is going to want you to do for you to provoke his financial blessing over your life is to figure out what your assignment is. Now, how do we do that? I'm going to do a series, I'm sure, at some point in the future about that. But the most important thing is for you to figure out what giftings that the Lord has put in you before you were even born. A lot of you do have a lot of great gifts in your life. Some of you have a phenomenal imagination. You do. You have a phenomenal imagination. And that is something that you may take for granted, but guess what? You're not going to be taking it for granted after today. You're going to realize that the Lord put that imagination in you. He did. Why? Because you're thinking about all sorts of things. Now, again, it can be a distraction at times. Some of you who have great imaginations are going to be in some classroom somewhere, or if God forbid you're at a desk for 10 hours a day, you're going to be thinking about a lot of different things. You got these great ideas, and you're thinking of stuff that most people will never in a million years even think of. You are doing it like this, and it happens naturally. That is a gift. Some of you have supernatural abilities to be able to be an adventurous person. Some of you wake up and think, where can I travel today? Do you understand that that's a gifting? It is. Because a lot of people want to sit at home and do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, but not you. Do you understand how much you can be used mightily if you have that great ability in you that the Lord has given you? My goodness. Do you know how many people that the Lord has spoken to say, go here and do this? And they're like, no, I can't. My favorite show is on at 7:30. But you are saying, absolutely, I'm going. You don't have to tell me twice. Look at that. I mean, just think about that. There's so many giftings in you. So that's what you have to figure out. What am I good at? What do I enjoy doing? Write down 5 things right now that you enjoy doing. If you say, even if one of them is saying, I like to play baseball on Saturday afternoons. Okay? What is it you like about baseball? What is it that you enjoy about baseball? Why do you like doing baseball on Saturday afternoons? Just think about the reasoning behind that. That's going to help you in your assignment. Even if you just say, again, no matter how silly it is, if you think for the moment, I enjoy cutting the grass on my tractor on Sunday afternoons after church. And the average person looking at you will think, well, that's just really stupid. Well, just think about this for a second. What do you enjoy about it? Do you enjoy being out in nature? Do you enjoy working with your hands on mechanical things? Do you enjoy the time alone? Do you enjoy listening to music? Do you enjoy seeing deer on your farm while you're cutting the grass? Something along those lines. Guess what? As soon as you figure out why you enjoy doing what you're doing, you're going to enjoy it even more. Even more, okay? And so beyond that, you're going to start getting a good sense of what do I enjoy doing? What do I like about it? And then what is within me that's helping me enjoy those things. Once you get those things, they will all come together. They will all come together, and the Lord is going to speak to you. And that might seem really strange, but guess what? If he spoke to people in his word, he's going to speak to people today. He's the same God yesterday, today, and forever. And if he spoke to people in the Bible, he can speak to you too. He's spoken to me. He has. Multiple times. A lot of times. So therefore, I want you to understand that you can take what you have and put something together to say, this is my assignment. And so the first thing you have to do is understand your skill sets. What do you enjoy doing? And how does it all come together? What has the Lord given you to be able to accomplish that? Now, there are things you're going to have to learn as you go down the road. There are. But to start off, that's the first and most important thing. The second thing is whatever your assignment is must be bigger than yourself. It has to be bigger than yourself. Now, when you first start off, you're going to have a lot of refining to do. You're going to have to be refined in a significant manner by God. And he's going to improve a lot of things that you have been frustrated with your entire life. You are. And so he's going to help you with that, especially when you desire to seek him and his will for your life. My goodness, you have no idea where you're going to head off to. You have no idea what you're going to head off to, okay? No, this is not an auto program. I can promise you I'm a real person and I'm speaking to you. I'm not an AI. I've gotten that quite a few times. I'll be honest. But yes, I am a real individual with a real mind. I am not an AI program. So yes, you're gonna enjoy this. All right. So that's just the reality. So number two, you've got to be able to say, okay, what is bigger than myself? What is bigger than myself, and what skill sets do I have to be able to do that? Okay. So once you get those two things, and you're thinking, okay, how can I do this to help other people and improve the body? That's what your assignment is going to be. That's what your assignment is going to be. So once you get that, you wake up every single day. No, even if you're working at Walgreens right now and you're managing Walgreens for 50 hours a week, and you finally got this picture that says, I'm going to do something that's significant for myself and for the kingdom. Okay? So once you get that, you're going to go and you're going to say, okay, I know what my assignment is. I know what my purpose is. I know what my vision for my life is. And you work every single day towards the completion of that assignment. Every single day. Every single day. Again, even if you currently have a job that takes up most of your time, okay? Even if you're in that position, you can still think about and have that imagination going of, okay, what am I going to do? Who do I have to become? What do I have to complete in the time that is currently not allotted for my income production so I can eat? Okay? Once you do that, then you're going to figure out, okay, I'm going to do this every single day. And once you get on that path, that is a supernatural path that the Lord can bless. Because if you want to receive the 100-fold from the Bible that is promised to you, okay, both in Mark 4 and in Mark 10, you're going to have to do exactly what the Lord wants you to do and the assignment that he wants you to accomplish. Once you get on that path, you are going to live a life that you can't even imagine, because that assignment is very, very important. It's not just for the Lord to improve his life. It's also for you. It's also for you, because you're going to improve yourself. You're going to improve the others around you. And so from that perspective, you're going to not only benefit the Lord, but benefit yourself. And that is well pleasing to God, because you're taking what you've been given and you're multiplying it because we have been promised as part of our covenant with God, even as saved believers, even as non-Jews, we are promised with our covenant with God to increase and multiply, not just in our descendants, not just with children. That also includes financial. And when you get on that path, you're going to find that there's going to be a lot of financial overflow and financial multiplication. Now, some of you it's January or February. A lot of people who've been working at the same company for a long time, January is about the time when they start getting the raise for the year. And some of you just got a raise. It could be 5%, 8%, and some of you are thinking, yes, 5%, 8%. You're going to have 5 or 8% increases per month. How would you like that? That's going to happen. Okay? So that's what I'm talking about here. And that's one of the big reasons why my belief system, and I'm glad you asked that question. What Christian are you? I don't have a denomination. I don't. I didn't grow up in a denomination. I don't. My purpose is, my belief system is very, very simple. If it's in here, I believe it. If it's in here, I live my life by it. If it's in here, I'm going to live my life exactly as he wants me to do. Now, am I going to go Old Testament and just start killing people that are in my promised land? No, I'm not going to do that. But when it comes to what the Lord wants me to believe in terms of his word for my life and his word for everybody else, yes, it comes straight from here. If it's in here, I'm going to believe it. Okay? Regardless of what it says, regardless of how ridiculous you think that it sounds, that's what I'm going to believe, and that's what I'm going to promote, because my life has to be a reflection of the increase that comes from finances in the Bible. Because the Bible talks about money 5 to 6 times more than heaven, 5 to 6 times more than sin. If it wasn't important to God, he would not have spoken about it so much. Even Jesus, most of the parables have something to do with money. The parable of the talents, money. The parable of the sower, money. The parable of the lost son, money. The parable of the debt forgiveness, money. All that has to do with money. And yes, there's a spiritual conclusion from those parables, but why did he talk about money so much? Because it's important. It's very, very important. Guess what? I don't know why, again, you got me going off on a tangent here, but I'm going to tell you this. If you want to, I literally just had this discussion with somebody last week. If you see a homeless guy on the corner of the street, what is the best way to help him? Is it to give him a Bible and say Jesus loves you? Or is it going to be paying for a hamburger and giving him something to eat that's warm, that he hasn't had in a month? What's the better route? It's the hamburger. It's not the Bible. You're not going to hear that from a lot of people, but you are going to hear it from me, because money matters. Money matters. You cannot help other people without a financial abundance if you can't even help yourself. So that's why I talk about this so much. And as he's eating that burger and now he's feeling satisfied, now you can preach to him. Now, if you're wondering where the heck did that come from, that's from the 5 loaves and 2 fish. When Jesus multiplied that little boy's lunch and fed 5,000 men plus the women and children, when do you think they were more receptive to hear about him and his teaching? When they're hungry or when they're full? When are you likely to feel your most satisfied? Before the meal or after the meal? It's after the meal. And Jesus knew that. And guess what? It costs money to multiply that 5 loaves and 2 fish. We are not Jesus. But with the money that we are multiplying with our endeavors and with our work, we're able to be that blessing, because we have been called to be the blessing. We have been called to be a blessing. And I talk about this so much that if you are not living an abundant life, nobody wants to have your life. If you are going constantly from poverty to poverty to poverty, no one is going to look at you and talk about how great your God is if you're constantly in lack. That's why it's so important to get and study the word when it comes to your biblical finance. It does. And that's what I'm doing. That's my purpose in life. And from every single day, from now until I went and meet Jesus in heaven, Every single day, it's how can I promote the word of the Lord financially to improve the body of believers? That's my purpose. That's my mission. That's my assignment. And part of that is this broadcast right now. Now I do other podcasts, I do other shows, I do that. But in terms of live, one-on-one with you, even when there's 1,000 people watching, and it's just, that's one of the beauties of online broadcasting, especially on this Twitch platform, is that you can literally have 10,000 people watching you at one time. And every single one of them thinks it's just you and him. You and the guy you're watching. That's the beauty. That helps you get a much better enthusiasm, and a much better belief, and a much better experience to be able to help you wherever you are in your walk of life. Because if there's 10,000 people on 10,000 computers, or 10,000 devices all around watching me, it's very different than if it's in a room with 10,000 people and I'm speaking on stage and there's a spotlight on me, and you're thinking, if he can just look at me, then he'll know I'm real. Okay? That's a feeling you get when you're in front of 10,000 people. It is. But when you're in front of a computer right here, like I'm broadcasting to my camera on my microphone, and it's just you and you alone. It's you, even when there's 10,000 people, it's just you and me. That's all it is. You and me. Okay? And every single day, I do everything I can to ensure that you are walking on your path with the Lord, and you're doing what you're supposed to do in the manner in which you're supposed to be doing it. That way you can reap and provoke the financial blessing and the pleasure of God to be able to live an abundant, fruitful life financially that you couldn't possibly live otherwise. That's the purpose of this broadcast. And I do this all the time. And I'm going to be doing this from now until I want to meet Jesus. Now that platform may be very different, because 5 years from now, Twitch may not exist. I still will, but Twitch will not. Now, maybe it will. Maybe it'll be around for another 10, 15 years. All right? MySpace was around for a long time. Okay? But I have outlived MySpace. You have outlived MySpace. Okay? And if you're 20 years old, you're thinking, what is MySpace? I guarantee you, a lot of you watching this, your very first social media interaction was with Tom on MySpace. It was for me. Okay? Now, I think I had an account on Facebook when it was thefacebook.com. I've had my account for that long. Almost 20 years. I think I opened my account in April or May of 2005. And it's almost 20 years. That's ridiculous to even think about. Technology is constantly changing. 10 years ago, I mean, the iPhone was just starting out to be a device that could replace everything else that it does. The emailing, the phone, the camera, the music, all of that. I mean, that was around the time when the iPhone was replacing the iPod. How many of you had iPods? And just think about how this world is constantly changing. But the thing that's constant is the Word of God that's going to help you in your life today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, today. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so when we do what the Lord wants us to do, particularly financially, and there's a lot of scriptures in here that are going to help you do exactly what you've been called to do and to live an abundant, fruitful life every single day. When that happens, you are going to provoke a significant pleasure from the Lord, and that's going to provoke His financial blessing for your life. It is. And you may feel like it's your hand, but I'm going to tell you what, when you've experienced what I have experienced financially, I want everybody to do that. I do, especially when it comes to the increase that the Lord wants for you. It's going to happen, especially if you partner with Him and start. The first thing, of course, is loving Him with all your heart. Once you do that, you're going to find a lot of things in here that, wait, that's in there? I didn't know that. For example, when you're giving, a lot of people, again, when we talk about giving, it's a very, it feels like a disgusting topic about giving, because whenever somebody talks about giving, it's all about giving to them. So when they're the recipient, it can feel, especially if you're someone who's not a huge giver at the moment, but you will be shortly, it can feel like you're taking a wet shower. Or I'm sorry, you're taking a shower with your clothes on or something like that. And it just feels like really disgusting. But what you don't understand is that there is a blessing every time you give. Like even giving to the poor. There are scriptures in here that says, he who gives to the poor lacks nothing. And he who gives to the poor lends to the Lord, and he repays you. So those are just two very, very quick, right off the top of my head, blessings for obedience. Because we're supposed to, as believers who love the Lord, want to be able to get some sort of pleasure out of this life. And yes, we also want to share that with other people. And part of our walk as a believer is to have compassion and a heart for those who are less fortunate. Again, this is not going to be a guilt trip for you. I promise you that. But with that being said, when you have that heart for the Lord and you have that heart to do what he tells you to do, and you're thankful that when you give to somebody who's less fortunate, that they get something in return, and they can at least live momentarily on a high. So those are three things that happen. But after that occurs, you have a heavenly account that all you have to do is believe it. All you have to do is believe it and unlock it, and it's yours. For example, the scripture says, those who give to the poor lack nothing. So when you do those three things at the beginning, to love God, love doing what he wants, and blessing somebody else, after that, you can go to the Lord and say, Father, thank you that when I give to the poor, I lack nothing. When I give to the poor, I lack nothing. Thank you that when I give to the poor, I'm lending to you and you're going to repay me. What does that mean? If you give $1,000 to the poor and somebody who's really poor, and that's a whole different conversation, but somebody who truly is poor, and you give them $1,000 or some organization $1,000, that means that the Lord is going to repay you that $1,000. So that's why even whenever I've been called to give in the Spirit, again, not getting on a giving message, but when I have been called to give, when the Spirit has directed me to give, I've never lost out, and I'm not going to lose out. Because every single time I give, the Lord knows that there's a return on that. That there is a return on that. And so that's one of the things that I like to focus on here, and it helps people. And I've talked about this extensively on past broadcasts, is there's not only a blessing for the obedience, but when you talk about the blessing, it's more incentivized for people to obey. Because I'm going to end with this. I want you to take two messages when it comes to the tithe. The first message is from a church, and they say, all of you have got a tithe. It's part of the gospel. You should do it because God said for you to do it. And you do that because we got a need, the roof's leaking, and we need $50,000. Or you take the second message. The Lord called you to give 10% of your income as a tithe. But guess what? When you do that, he's going to open the windows of heaven for you and pour you out such a blessing that you can't even have room to receive it. He's going to bless all the work of your hands, and he's going to continue watching over you and protecting you financially. Which one of those messages are you going to get? Which one of those messages is going to entice you to give? The guy who talked about the needs, like, I got a roof leak, you got to give me 50 grand today, all right? Or you're just a bad Christian. Or the guy who says, God's going to really bless you when you're obedient to him and partner with him financially. Which one of those is going to get more people to give? It's going to be this guy. It's going to be this guy. And that's why I talk about this so much, is that there's a blessing for following the Lord and a blessing for your obedience. And the reason for that is because you are pleasing to God when you are obedient and loving to him. That's why we talk about that versus love for God and pleasing God. That's the difference. So with that being said, I want to thank every single one of you who are in the chat today. I really, really thank you for being a blessing to me, no matter what you said in there. All right, I just want to thank you for coming on. And not only that, make sure you're live here. Make sure you're live so you too can ask questions about whatever's going on with you when it comes to your walk and your finances. Whatever it is, so you can get blessed in some way, shape, or form. And I want to make sure that I'm here, that no matter what you're going through, no matter where you are, I want to make sure that you are going to be blessed by the Lord with everything they have. Because I want you to know this. I want you to know that God loves you and he wants you to live an abundant, fruitful life. And that includes financial. And I'm going to do that every single day as long as I'm on here live. With that being said, I want to thank you so much. We'll see you next time on a great broadcast. Take care, everybody.